Wow, this is crazy. This is Maksim Outdoors, and welcome back to part 2 of my exploration around Greenwood State Park, as we try and locate every ruin on this park's property. If you missed part 1, we talked about the industrial history that once was here. This now ghost town held over 500 folks before being abandoned. We also found the ruins of the Monsell House, as well as the old gristmill from the 1800s. So, if you missed out on part 1, go back and check it out now. So, let's get back to exploring. All right, well, we have officially wrapped up the Lakeview Trail. Only a quarter of a mile, very easy. Take the whole family on and you get some really nice views of Greenwood Lake. But we popped out here at this little clearing. You can see some of the hills in the distance of Huntingdon County. You can imagine the old iron ore mines probably crisscross all throughout these hills and mountains around me. Just behind me here, though, we talked a lot about the history of the 1800s and the early 1900s. Well, fast forward to the 1930s. The CCC came to this park like so many others, and they constructed, pavilions like this, as well as, fixed up a lot of the original architecture, like the blacksmith shop and even the furnace. So we're going to be checking out both of those today. The blacksmith shop's actually open until 1 p.m. today, so we have to make it there by then. If not, we're going to miss it. So yeah, just wanted to show you a little bit of CCC history as well. And there's a new ID for the year. And for the channel, nice little snapping turtle chilling out in this tiny little creek. Check him out. All right, well, we're just a couple hundred feet away from the old blacksmith shop that is still standing to this day. And just behind me here is a baseball field. And it kind of brings up a random point that I remember reading and I forgot to mention, but we kind of already emphasized how many folks actually lived in this area. I think there was around 60 or so houses. So I mean, you could easily say there was a few hundred folks living here in the area, the women and children as well. And a little fun fact is this area actually had its own baseball team. I think they were called the Energetics. So I'm not sure if this was like the original ball field that they would have played in, but yeah, just goes to show, how this was actually a little functioning society here. And just behind me, if I remember right, I think this is where all the stables were located. So all the horses and mules would have been kept back here. The grain and oats would have been ushered up from the grist mill that we saw earlier. And the blacksmith shop is just through the trees there. If you can see that bus, that's the blacksmith shop. So that's going to be our next stop here, unless we find some ruins along the way. Alrighty, so we got a little lucky. I think the blacksmith shop is only open 2 days a week from, I want to say like 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. So we'll walk on through here, give you a little tour. Looks like they got some interesting artifacts from the area. You see one of the buggies. Was this a charging buggy? One-man buggy or cart was used to dump raw materials into the top of the furnace. So there you go. We haven't made to the furnace yet, but we'll get there eventually. And then over here, you got some of the pig iron. Pretty cool. Grist mill part. So we saw the grist mill earlier. That was one of the parts from it. Some dies, an axle cone, and check that behemoth out. This is a big old wagon, probably pulled by ox, or I'm not sure. Pretty cool. It's huge, like absolutely gigantic. And over here we have some of the looks like the raw slag and ingots of pig iron. Have all kinds of interesting stuff. Some saddles up top there. Picture of what the furnace used to look like, as well as a diagram. Yeah. Some anvils, blower fan, shovels, a big old basket of coal. And a pretty cool old sign there. And you can see just how logged out this area was back in the day. Like we said already, they would have cut down all the forest so the colliers can make coal or charcoal. And yeah, just a really interesting little building here. Free to get in. So take a look down here and see what else they have. It's like some more tools that they would have used, some dies and drills. Yeah, they didn't have your Milwaukee drills back in the day. These were all obviously you know, done by hand. Some mallets, threads, hammers. Just really cool. If you get a chance to come to Greenwood Furnace, try to stop at the blacksmith shop. Here's some older pictures. The Iron Masters Mansion. Here's the baseball team that we were talking about, the Energetics. Furnace number 2, back in 1900, a couple years before it closed down. Some workers, the company store. Here's the original dam. The church that we're going to be heading to. And yeah. All right, well, if you have a couple minutes, be sure and swing by the blacksmith shop while they're open. I believe it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are their open days. And here's a view of the exterior. You can see another one of the, I don't know if this is like an ore cart here that would have transferred the ore from maybe the mine down to the furnace itself, or maybe it was used for something else, but I believe this is original. Pretty cool looking. But yeah, we're gonna move on here. I don't know if the furnace is gonna be the next stop or not, but we'll just take you around the exterior of this blacksmith shop. And I think this is another example of something that the CCC would have came and pretty much renovated in the 1930s. I don't know if this was like in ill repair once they arrived, or if it was kept, you know, somewhat up. But then over here we have some of the mine carts. It's crazy to think that there's probably miles and miles of mines right underneath our feet right now, but take a peek in there. I believe some of this is actually iron ore that they would have thrown into the furnace. But yeah, definitely cool. A little bit of slag there. But yeah, we're gonna move on to the next stop, which I'm not sure what it is yet. I'll pull out the map and let you know. And some other information about the blacksmith and wagon shop. It was created in 1867. It's a large building, and it was the hub of the transportation system within the town. The company's blacksmiths and carpenters worked here, showing the company teams repairing tools and harnesses, and building and repairing the fleet of wagons. So just a little bit of information. There was 5 blacksmiths and 3 carpenters that worked here. So pretty cool. We're gonna move on now. I think the furnace is probably gonna be our next stop. Alrighty folks, well if you're watching this video and you wanted to see the furnace, the wait is over. So here we are, Greenwood furnace itself. So everything that we've seen today, from the cemetery to the grist mill to the blacksmith shop, and even some of the stuff that we haven't seen yet, like the church, can all be attributed to this little furnace here. Hard to believe. So it would have looked a lot different back in the day. There would have been some out structures, probably a bridge that leads up to the top of this. They were all top loaded, so you can imagine workers would have hauled their coal, their charcoal, and their iron ore and dumped it in the top there. And we'll take a look on inside. Another little fun fact about this furnace is this is one of the only instances of two furnaces working in tandem. So I believe this is furnace number 1 and this is furnace number 2, and they were working in unison for nearly 70 years. So yeah, let's take a walk inside this relic from the past. You can see the main firewall. This would have continued all the way up. And yeah, take a look at that view. Pretty awesome. So yeah, this would have went all the way to the top. The pig iron would have poured out of here. The workers would have, you know, taken that off and loaded it up onto rail cars to be sent down to, you know, probably towns like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And you can see, I mean, just how smooth some of this is. This is almost like slag right here, but yeah, just pretty incredible. This fell into disrepair. Like I said, in the 1930s, the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, came here and it basically bolstered this up and made it into what it is today. So if it wasn't for them, it would look like this. This is, I believe, furnace number 1. This is what it would have looked like when the CCC was here. Unfortunately, they didn't get to repair both, but at least we have this to look at. So they said that this furnace, you know, burned 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for nearly 70 years. Like I said, it took an acre of trees a day to fuel this over 70 years. Pretty amazing to think about. They said that the town, I mean, we walked around a decent bit of the town, so you know how big this area actually is. They said you could walk around at night and not need a lantern because of how, you know, hot this glue. Up to 3,000 degrees, and I think it produced about 1,200 tons of iron a year. So we're gonna go up and look at some of the signage here before leaving, and yeah, just one more look at the furnace here before we check out some signs here. So let's go. Well, there's a nice view of the furnace in the distance as we check out some signs. You can see it says the 2 main ingredients are the iron ore and the charcoal that would feed this furnace up to 3,000 degrees. You can see some of the mule-drawn wagons, full ore in the back. Might be the one that we just seen down at the blacksmith shop. And here's a good view at exactly what the colliers did. They would stack these logs up, and it was a pretty ancient process of making charcoal. After this would all kind of burn down, it would leave this pile of charcoal that they would then use to fuel the furnace. And we'll take a look over here. And this brings a pretty interesting idea about how many people this actually took to maintain and run this furnace. So it says only a handful of people would actually work here at the furnace, you know, pulling up the pig iron. But you can see the wood choppers would make up the majority of the workforce here. They'd go out in the forest, cut down all the trees, an acre a day, believe it or not. And they would bring it then to the colliers that I just showed you, the pile of the wood. They would then make the charcoal. You'd have the laborers here, the miners up in the hill extracting the iron ore out of the hills. And yeah, that's pretty much how this furnace operated for nearly 70 years. And here's some more views. We've seen this in a couple other state parks like Caledonia as well as Canoe Creek, but this gives you a good idea just how these furnaces work. Like I said, they're always top loaded. They would drop the ore up through the top. So I mean, I don't know how this would work since there was 2 furnaces here. I don't know if there was just a main walkway that would go across and they could dump in both or what, but as I said, the other need for a lot of these furnaces is water. They have a creek right behind us, as well as the lake that was constructed, and a pretty cool view of what the furnaces actually looked like back in the day. You can see the furnace kind of tucked away in the back there. Kind of hard to believe that, you know, this thing burned at 3,000 degrees, but it was all surrounded by wood. So good look at some of the workers, and you can just imagine just how, you know, covered in soot and ash this whole area was back in those days. And some more looks at some of the workforce. Hard to believe that this is what we're looking at right there, isn't it? This is the ruins of the furnace that we're looking at prior to the CCC coming in. This was in 1920, and like I said, the CCC came and bolstered it up, and it is what it is today. And so a lot of the iron came from this area, was used for the railway. I guess It says the railroads need the high quality cast iron produced here. Although hard and brittle, it would withstand great weight. So that was kind of one of my questions. You know, what did they use this iron for? It was for the railroads. So you can look at. We'll look one more time at this diagram here. You can see the molten iron coming out. This is the pig iron. The wandering woodsman kind of taught me this, but they call it pig iron because this would be the mama pig, and these are the piglets, kind of like, you know, suckling off of the mama. So that's where it gets its name, pig iron. Pretty interesting, huh? So, all right, we're gonna move on from furnace here, and not really sure where we're gonna head next. Maybe the church. There's a slag dump as well, but yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying this video. I'm having a blast out here trying to explain this to all you folks at home. So, all right, let's go to the next spot. Alrighty, well, just a few feet away from the furnace itself, the pamphlet suggests that there were 3 separate ruins here in this area. As you can see, there's some rusty pipe, some random bits of concrete, as well as, I'm not really sure what this is. So it said that there were scales here. I'm not sure if that's what these blocks would have been used for. They might have brought the pig iron out, weighed them before putting them on a train so nobody got ripped off. Not really sure if that's the story of the scales or not. And then over to the left here, says that the original blacksmith shop was in this area that I'm standing at, and then I'm not sure, they might have ripped it down and moved on across the creek there and built the larger blacksmith shop and wagon house. It also said that there was a charcoal house here as well, so you can imagine the colliers probably would have brought down the charcoal from their little hearths and probably stored it here somewhere so it could be easily accessed and took over to the furnace. So yeah, the original blacksmith shop, charcoal house, and the scales that they would have weighed the ore, I'm guessing, would have all stood in this area. So yeah, just some more remnants of the past here at Greenwood Furnace, literally everywhere you look. Alrighty, before we move on to the next stop, I just wanted to show you a quick little look at stack number 1 here. This is the one that obviously was never rebuilt after falling into ill repair. You can see there are a few outbuildings here. You can see pretty evident foundation. I really don't know what they use this for. This may be where the laborers would hang out, maybe relax, or who knows, maybe the pig iron was stored here, the charcoal might have been stored here, and then if we look over to the right as well, there's another outbuilding. So this structure probably would have came out all the way to where I'm standing, maybe even out that far, and just would have been like a little town here. And you can see that they blocked this all in. This would have been all open back in the day, just like stack number 2 over that we just checked out there. You can see some of the old remains of some of the, I believe it's cast iron pipe here, that probably would have cooled these furnaces, and now they're probably just habitat for some snakes in the area. But yeah, just a quick little look here at stack number 1 before we head on to the next stop. Alrighty, well, we have meandered our way across the creek. If you peek on through the wood line there, you can kind of make out the furnace there in the distance. We're actually standing upon the Standing Stone Trail, a nearly 80-mile trail that traverses, I think, 3 counties, and we'll actually be doing a section of that tomorrow. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that. It should be a pretty awesome trail. But anyway, today we're still looking for ruins. So just behind me here is where the old boarding house would have stood. The boarding house would have provided a home for single men and temporary workers. So maybe if you were down on your luck, or maybe just passing through and you needed work for a week or 2, this is where you'd stay. So it no longer exists, obviously. But yeah, sadly, I don't see really any foundation or anything. Maybe come back in the winter and see if we could spot anything. But yeah, just another bit of ruins before we head on up. There are 2 houses. They're private residences, but they're around during the time of the furnace. They were like the bookkeeper's house, but due to them being private residences, we're not going to go up there, but they are still existing to this day. But we're going to keep heading this way. I think probably check out the church here within the next couple minutes. So yeah, one more look at the boarding house before we head on here. All right, well, you probably already heard me say it a few times in this video, but in 1904, the furnace officially ceased operation. They had a ceremonial pour. The town folk kind of gathered for a pretty somber last pour out of the furnace before it ceased operation forever. And the same town folk would move on with their lives, probably moving to bigger cities after realizing, you know, that their little rural furnace here in Huntington County couldn't compete with some of these like super giant furnaces in Chicago and Pittsburgh. So that way of life officially ended here in 1904. But some of the byproduct from the furnace, including the ash, so there was a fly ash that kind of just, you know, came out of the furnace and landed all over this area. You know, it was in operation for 70 years, so imagine all the ash that would have, you know, dispersed from the wind and whatnot from that furnace. Well, that fly ash was actually a very big proponent. So after most of the town left, a few folks stayed around and developed a tree nursery here, and that's why I'm filming here. It almost looks like this might have been the old remnants of that nursery. So as I said in many other videos, much of Pennsylvania was logged throughout the years. There was really not many forests left. You could have looked up on this mountainside back in the 1800s and not seen a single tree. Well, after the furnace was closed, they started growing trees here, and due to that fly ash, the trees thrived. And this is one of the most important nurseries in the entire state. So they actually shipped, you know, oak trees, maple trees, hemlock trees from this area and helped develop, you know, the forest now that we have in the state. So something good did come out of, you know, the fly ash that just covered this area. So just wanted to talk about the nurseries in this area real quick before we move on to probably the last two buildings for the video. So let's go check them out. All right, well, just real quick, we made it to the end of the nursery road here, and off to my right, I believe this is the old carriage house that would hold the mansion owner's carriage, or it could be a stable. I'm not quite sure, but you could definitely tell it's from the 1800s. It's definitely getting older. It looks like it needs some repair. The roof is kind of falling apart, as you can see, but definitely pretty cool little stop here along my ruin hunt for the day. So I think we're gonna head back up this way and maybe try and find the mansion itself. So yeah, nice look at the old carriage house for the mansion as we traverse some more of this nursery here. Alrighty, well, we're going to start winding down the video here. Some really nice views of the surrounding hills here in Huntington County. And we got a couple more buildings to check out. We're going to head down this paved path here in just a second and check out the Iron Masters Mansion. We already seen the carriage house for the mansion. We're going to check out the mansion itself. And right here, this little white building is actually the meat house, as they call it. And we'll end the video at the church. So 3 more places to check out. And a little tidbit of information, actually right where I'm standing right now is where the old company store would have been located. So they have a sign here kind of telling you about what went on. You know, a lot of people came here for gossip. It says that they had pretty much everything, including dry goods, food, domestic goods, hardware, animal feed, and even luxury items such as coffee and chocolate. And also details, you know, how much things cost back in 1879. The average worker's salary, $28 per month. And then they just paid it right back to the company. So yeah, greedy if you ask me. Turkey, 8 cents a pound. Beef or pork quarters for 8 to 10 cents a pound. Pretty crazy. And like I said, the meat house, which is located right here, is where they would store all that ham and bacon and then just take it down to the store where I'm standing at and sell it, you know. So that's how it would work out. So yeah, a little bit of information about the company store. And we're going to head on down to the Iron Masters Mansion here and get a peek of that. All right, let's go. Alrighty, and here we are. We have officially made it to the Iron Masters mansion, and they do have a little bit of information here as well. So it says that the stone house, although large and well appointed, is quite modest when compared to what we perceive as a mansion. The workers called it the big house because it was larger and more showy than their simple wooden company houses. The mansion is built in the Georgian style, a popular style at the time, and it was erected in 1833 for James Hall, one of the owners and resident iron masters of the Greenwood Iron Works. So they have 14 rooms, 3 stories, a kitchen, they even had a bookkeeper. So yeah, and that's what it looked like back in 1890. It said there was like a white stucco, and then I guess they got rid of it after time. Then eventually in 1906, the furnace obviously left, and a local forest ranger and later the nursery superintendent lived here. So yeah, it's also one of the 8 surviving furnace era buildings in the park. So probably one of the most well kept buildings here. And let's take a peek here through the trees, and I'll show you a little bit around. Pretty cool. This would be like my dream house, honestly. I always tell Sam every time I see one of these, you know, old stone houses on the side of the road that that's for me. But yeah, it's a lot larger than what it looked like from the front. So yeah, you can definitely tell. 14 rooms, pretty crazy. So yeah, we're gonna walk around the entire property here, give you some nice views of the Iron Masters mansion. Yeah, it's absolutely giant. Imagine living in a little 1-room house, and then, you know, knowing your boss lives in this right up the road. So yeah, pretty awesome that they still keep this maintained though. Take a peek in the back here. Look at the size of this tree. Whew, this was probably here back when the Iron Master was living here. Maybe an old outhouse right here. Basement. Yeah, how would you like to live here? Mountains as your backdrop right out your window. Wow. Alrighty, so this is the Iron Masters mansion. We got one more stop. We're gonna head to the church. Hopefully it's open today. Hopefully we can peek inside. And yeah, what a successful day we had here at Greenwood Furnace. Hopefully I'm not boring you guys out there. Hopefully this video didn't go too long. I don't know if this is part 1 or part 2 at this point, but yeah. Now we look at the mansion here before we move onward. Well, one last look at the Iron Masters mansion before we head on to our final destination for the day. We're going to go check out the old church. I did notice on a few other YouTube videos from like the Wandering Woodsman that the church was unlocked. So maybe we'll get lucky today and be able to check out the interior of it. But yeah, so like I said, what a day. We killed it. Saw a lot of awesome old ruins and still intact buildings. So one last stop, the old church. So I'll see you there. And here we are, the last stop of the day, the Greenwood Furnace Church, established back in 1867, perched upon this hill here. You can still see that the bell is intact to this day, all the way back from the 1800s. And we'll go check out the signage up here, and I'll show you around as best as I can. So, all right, here's just a little bit of information about the church. It says that there were circuit riders, basically just different ministers that would come and go from village to village, preaching and generating converts. Iron furnace villages were often rough and tumble places, so iron masters embraced religion. So the stone church was built at a cost of only $6,000, September 1st, 1867. Let's see what it says. At that time, services lasted most of the day, believe it or not. With the closing of Greenwood Furnace, the church was used for seed storage. But as you see on the sign down there, it says they still have mass here on Sundays. So pretty interesting that they still use it to this day. So let's go and see if we can get lucky and check out the interior. Let's see if we can head on in and get a glimpse of the interior of this church. So judging by the door being open, I think we're gonna get lucky. Let's give it a shot. What do you say? And in we go. All right. Let's see here. All right. Wow. A lot larger than it looks on the outside. That is for sure. And wow, your voice echoes in here. It's pretty remarkable. You could probably hear somebody whispering halfway across the church from you. Like I said, this place is still active to this day. You come here on Sunday and sit in on a sermon. Check that out. Only authorized people are permitted to ring the church bell. That's tempting, but I'm not going to get arrested today. So, yeah. And the smell in here, you know, it's just that old woody smell. It's like going back to like your grandma's house back when you were a kid or something. Just that really distinct old smell. Check this place out. The old piano. Still works to this day. But yeah, I bet you these pews haven't changed too much from the 1800s either. Just imagine the history that came through here. People sitting in here worried about, you know, World War I and World War II. Civil War veterans would have sat in here. Just crazy to think about. And just a perfect way to end the day. We've seen some amazing ruins, some intact buildings like this one. This is probably the perfect way to end the video here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully I didn't put any of you to sleep out there with all this history, but hopefully somebody enjoys it out there. And yeah, that's gonna wrap up this video. As always, if you aren't already, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out. Like the video, and check me out over on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. All right, guys, well, I think this is like the second or third church that we've ended up exploring on this channel now, which is pretty crazy to think. But all right, we're gonna wrap this video up, and tomorrow we'll actually be on top of that mountain there in the distance, hiking the Standing Stone Trail. So make sure you don't miss that. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next week. All right, Maksim Outdoors signing out.